3 months ago, I left my job as a software engineer at Amazon for a new role as startup. Today, I want to share some of my key takeaways, the biggest differences between working in big tech and working at a startup, and what you should do if you want to make a similar transition or you're just looking for a job at a startup out of college. First, I'm going to give you a little bit of context about why I left Amazon. I actually really enjoyed the time I spent there. I had a great team, I had amazing mentorship throughout my first couple months, and I had an amazing manager. Big tech is an amazing place to learn how to think about scale and make really robust solutions to complex problems. When you're working in big tech, 95% of solutions need to be designed for 99.99% availability and designed to serve millions of requests. And because of this, exercising extreme caution is very, very important. If you make a bad change and take something down for just a few minutes, this is a massive hit to your availability. And availability blips cost you both in direct money and customer trust. So designing for high availability through system design and also process like unit tests, integration tests, two-person deployments, and not deploying after certain times during the day are all critical. And this was great. I learned so much about system design, everything you see today if you watch my content through my work at Amazon. But I started to feel like it was getting more and more process heavy. I didn't have the freedom to just immediately jump on a project and start shipping, or propose a new idea, bring it to leadership, and start working on it the next week. In fact, in my last couple weeks at the company, I came up with a proposal which was approved, but I wasn't going to be able to start on it for another 9 months. So when a startup recruiter messaged me on LinkedIn that he'd seen one of my TikToks and wanted to interview me, well, I figured I might as well take the interview. Anyways, let's get into some of the key differences and then I'll tell you more about getting jobs at startups. The first lesson is that at a startup, there is absolutely nowhere to hide. In big tech, there are so many people that do pretty much no work. And yes, everybody knew that this used to be the case with companies like Google or Twitter having software engineers working literally 5 to 15 hours a week. But this still exists all across big tech, and I know plenty of people doing this. In fact, I'm convinced still that 90% of the output is coming from 10 to 20% of engineers at a company. At a startup, this is completely different. You might only have 5 to 10 employees at your entire company, whether you're in engineering, marketing, growth, anything. If you waste 1 week on a task that doesn't end up bearing fruit, everybody's going to know. Now, on the flip side, if you do something great, like release a new feature that everybody likes, make a social media post that blows up, or interview a couple of users to get really good feedback about the product, everybody will also know and you'll get the credit that you deserve. In big tech, even if you roll out something nice, this gets bundled up through loads of hierarchy and it's probably not going to be super meaningful on a promotion, at least for 9 months. Now, the second lesson is that at a startup, you can just do things. In big tech, if you want to do something, there is an extremely long process. First, you have the idea. Maybe you write a 1-page doc or do a proof of concept if you're extremely lucky. Then you take that concept to product managers to try to find something called entitlement numbers. This is basically the dollar value calculation of the project you want to work on, and a lot of the times it's complete bullshit. When companies get to a certain size, it's very easy to make up these entitlement numbers based on risks associated with something or a projected value that you might achieve. If I had to guess, most of these numbers never come to fruition. At a startup, you don't even need to write a doc. If you have an idea, you can just start executing on it. Now, of course, this depends a lot on the size of your company, the stage, and the culture, but most startup founders and teams are more than happy to have you shipping and experimenting than they are to have you researching, doing documentation, coming up with numbers for a month, when in that same amount of time you could have built, delivered, released, and measured the impact of the feature. Last week in my new job at a startup, I fell into this trap. I spent a week and a half writing a doc. I brought it before my CEO and my manager, and my CEO read the executive summary and basically said, look, even if you do this entire project, I don't care about this outcome. So throw this in the trash and go do something else entirely. This was a great wake-up call for me because all I had to do was bring him one paragraph with the outcomes and he was able to make a clear decision on that project. Now I know, if I'm ever in doubt about something, just start executing. Lesson 3. Everybody is full stack. In a startup, everybody touches everything. Engineers give feedback about the product and have ideas about marketing. Marketers build automation, write code, and influence design. Designers influence the engineers and the marketers through their design assets, and they build reliable systems that anybody can use to make designs. It's extremely chaotic, and anybody's job can basically change on a whim. You learn very quickly, and you aren't pigeonholed into one set of skills like you can be in big tech, where your entire job is writing Kotlin all day. Now, lesson 4 is you feel real ownership. Yes, in big tech, you're granted stock through restricted stock units, employee stock purchase programs, or any other mechanism, but at the end of the day, your work doesn't really influence the stock price. At a startup, if you ship something or do something great, you will actually see it reflected in the numbers immediately. You might see an increase in clicks to your website, retention on the website, number of sales going through. And these metrics can actually move the needle on your stock price. Let's say you have a social media post blow up, or you release a new feature and everybody's tweeting about it. Well, that can be enough for you to actually raise another round of funding or get the customers you need to reach profit. That level of ownership is really inspiring, and honestly, it's pretty amazing. And the next biggest difference is how you actually get these jobs. In big tech, there's a pretty clear established path to getting a job that most people can just execute. This is exactly how I did it. Your freshman year, You grind really hard, you study leak code, you learn pretty much everything about coding that you're going to learn in your entire 4 years of college in your freshman year. Then you land an internship at a mediocre company. You execute well here and get the return offer, but you leverage that return offer to find something else. Ideally, you move up to a slightly better company, maybe something in FAANG, or maybe just a slightly better mid-tier company. If that goes well, your senior year, you get a third internship in FAANG, get the return offer, and boom, now you're working in big tech. Startup hiring is very different. They don't really care too much about big tech internships or your ability to leak code or anything like that. Startups are generally looking for outliers, people that have done something extraordinary or have a certain skill set that they're looking for. And this is actually something that you can leverage to land these jobs. The first thing you can do is create signal where these founders are. Whether you see them posting or not, founders, venture capitalists, and even just hiring managers at big tech companies are lurking online on X and LinkedIn primarily. If you post about what you're learning or what you're building, you're going to start showing up on the right people's feeds due to the way the algorithm naturally works. Now, I don't think you should be building stupid projects that everyone else has built, like a to-do list app or a calorie tracking app, but build something that you care about and make it awesome. For example, something I'm really into is fishing. So I might build an AI-powered fishing app where you can scan a picture of a fish and it predicts how old it is, the species of it, and a couple other things about the fish that might be useful to fishermen. If somebody's working on a fishing-related startup or they're a founder who's also passionate about fishing, they could see that project and immediately reach out to me and offer me a job. This just doesn't happen in big tech. There's much more process. You have to go through multiple rounds every single time. There's hiring managers, and even hiring managers don't have the authority to just hire somebody on the spot like a founder does. Now, another thing you can do is reach out with context. If you see someone building or working on a startup where you feel like you have a unique leg up on everybody else due to an interest, a background working on a project, or some publication that you've made about some protocol that they're using, you should directly reach out to these people and make them aware of your unique expertise in that area. Again, these people are looking for outliers. They're not looking for somebody to apply with a standard resume as a full stack developer. So when you reach out, make it clear that yes, you have the skill set of a full stack developer, but you also have some outlier trait in some category. Founders remember people who have genuine curiosity and are extremely spiky or have a disproportionate amount of skill in one area. Now, another thing you can do is apply directly on venture capital sites. Large VC firms like A16Z or Y Combinator usually list out all open roles at their portfolio companies directly on their websites. There's hundreds of potential roles here most people never see on LinkedIn. So find these roles, go find their founders on X or LinkedIn, deeply research the product, send a targeted DM, and then apply. I will say though, the startup life is not for everybody. The pay is worse than big tech. You're probably going to work harder, but the upside can be massive and you'll learn a ton. But if you crave ownership and speed, you're going to love it. If you're thinking about making the jump or you want to make the jump, I'd love to hear about your experience in the comments.